Today's new episode of LCJ Live. It's Sunday, January 26, 2025. The final show of the first month of the year already. Wow. The month and the year are flying by. We have a new number one movie, but a studio that has already claimed a weekend in 2025. We'll talk about all that and more here on LCJ Live. As always, send in your questions and your comments. Hope you're doing well. I've got a couple Spider-Men here with me because Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man premieres Wednesday on Disney Plus. I have seen episodes. I've enjoyed it. I am going to interview one of the makers of it tomorrow. Check out that Animation Scoop Q&A and LCJ Q&A podcast episode later this week. Also, I spoke with Peter Hastings, the director of the new DreamWorks animated action-adventure comedy Dogman, which is in theaters later this week. Friday to be exact, and that Q&A with Peter Hastings will be available later this week as well. AnimationScoop.com and the LCJ Q&A podcast, lcj.podbean.com. While you're at AnimationScoop.com, check out my Q&As with all 5 of the Oscar-nominated animated shorts, all the filmmakers, and I've also spoken with all the makers of the animated feature nominees for the Academy Awards this year as well. I'll give you a little thoughts on the Oscar nominations, which finally came out on Thursday. We'll talk about that in a little bit here on LCJ Live. Pete Crooks, how many Pez do you own? Wow, it's gotta be, I think that's 80 times. I mean, it's gotta be 300, 400 at least. It's somewhere in that department. At least 400, gotta be. Yeah. Maybe closer to 500 or 550. I'd have to do a full count, but it's a lot. I'm looking over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 full shelves plus some extra. So yeah, you're talking 450, 500 pesos. And most of them are in the last 15 to 20 years worth of animated films and series. I don't have that many classic pezzas that came out pre-2005, 2006. But all these animated films and shows and comic book characters and TV adaptations. I mean, I got B-Movie, I got the Incredibles ones from 2004, so they do go back a little bit. But yeah, all the ones that have come out in the last several years I try to get related to animated films or series. Absolutely. Michelle DiOrio had make a Pez tour video. That would be fun. I mean, you could almost go back to all the LCJ Live episodes. Over 300 of them have been here on YouTube, and then others were on Twitter. So I've done at least 330, 340 LCJ Live episodes since April 2018. And you could go back and look at all the different Pezzas that I've had. That's quite a compilation. But yeah, maybe I'll do a tour of all the Pezzas at some point. But a lot of thought goes into what goes into the Pezzas and or Cars vehicles from the Cars franchise and other things that I put here for LCJ Live. Thanks for being here. The Oscar nominations are out. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I got to mention Flight Risk winning the weekend with $12 million. It's another number one victory for Lionsgate, a studio that struggled last year and now already has 2 movies that have topped the box office. Den of Thieves 2 and now Flight Risk. It earned $12 million. It's the only movie to earn more than $10 million this weekend. I got to say, I saw Flight Risk private showing, basically, Thursday night. It was the only one there. And it is a funny movie, but it's a bad film. But it was really funny to laugh out loud at some of the dumb dialogue and situations. And the climactic scene in Flight Risk is hilarious, the way that it's done. All of a sudden, you have Mel saying, all right, I want to finally do an action scene where I've got vehicles that are dodging other things, and then the craziness that happens after that. So, yeah. Flight Risk. It's terrible, though. The story, the chaos in the air, the editing, Mark Wahlberg's character, Topher Grace's character, Michelle Dockery, who I really like in the Downton Abbey films, just did not do anything for me here. And Wahlberg, one of his least successful performances. Topher Grace, such a goofy character, too. Yeah, this is not a good follow-up to Hacksaw Ridge for Mel Gibson. It's his first directorial feature since Hacksaw Ridge, which earned him a Best Director Oscar nomination. Yeah. Sorry, Mel. This didn't work out. Afterwards, I was like, what the Mel? This did not work. We'll see about... He's going to do the follow-up to Passion of the Christ. We'll see if that's a much better film. Number 2 this weekend is Mufasa the Lion King with another $8.7 million. It's at $221.1 for Disney. And what's really interesting about Mufasa is that now it's closing in on the total of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which came in fourth this weekend, added 5.5 million. It's at 226.1 for Paramount. So now the gap is only $5 million. And at this point, Mufasa is going to end up making more money than Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Sonic came out swinging, but even in that opening weekend, the gap was not as big as Paramount and Disney initially thought. And so because of that, I thought, okay, Mufasa's starting to gain momentum, and it did over Christmas and New Year's and other holidays. And now it's just a $5 million separation, and Disney, with a movie that only opened to $35 million, is going to have a film do at least $230 million total domestically. That is a win. Yes, it's much less than what the other Lion King movie did in 2019, but you got to call it a win. Number 3 is One of Them Days, which added 8 million. Not a bad drop this weekend for One of Them Days. It's up to 25.1 for Sony TriStar. And Flight Risk, 12 million, by the way, for Lionsgate. I think they got to be happy with that, especially considering how Den of Thieves 2 has dropped pretty hard. Down to 9th place this third weekend for it. Added 3 million. It's at 31.9. It's not going to get to that 45 million of what the first Den of Thieves did. So maybe not a Den of Thieves 3, but maybe Flight Risk will make a run at 25, 30 million total. We'll have to see how it does over the next couple weeks. There is a lot of competition for adults, especially horror movies, young adults. So we'll see how Flight Risk does. But you know what? Lionsgate will take another win. And for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 at 226.1, it's one of Paramount's biggest movies of the last several years. And one of the biggest non-Transformers films, non-Iron Man movies of the last 25 years for Paramount. So you are going to see Sonic 4 in March of 2027, and that fandom will come out for it for sure. Pete Crooks, did you see Chalamet play Dylan songs on SNL last night? I have not watched it yet. I heard he was hosting and performing. I have not seen the highlights yet. There's a lot of prep that goes into LCJ Live and other things going on. But I will check out the videos later today ahead of my Eagles, who will hopefully win today. Fly, Eagles, fly. Number 5 this weekend, family movies. This is why Dogman's going to do really well this weekend, because families love the theatrical experience. And these films from November and December, Mufasa's still making money. Sonic's still making money. Moana 2 is in 5th this weekend. Added 4.3 million. Congrats to Disney on getting to $450 million domestically and a worldwide total of more than $1 billion. Number 6 this weekend. This is a movie that did not have a lot of presence in theaters, and that's Presence. It's the new Steven Soderbergh horror thriller mystery drama starring Lucy Liu and Chris Sullivan from This Is Us. Good for him getting a big movie after this. I mean, it's a big movie because it's neon, because it's Steven Soderbergh behind it. After the This Is Us, I watched him on that. He was good on that. All that This Is Us ensemble cast. I mean, talk about a show. Talk about event television that you're not going to quite get anymore. Yeah, you get your streaming shows that this is hot for a while, this is hot for a while. But when you talk about network TV and something that people have to watch for years and years and years, and an emotional core momentum behind it, This Is Us is one of the last rare ones. I really enjoy High Potential. That's doing well for ABC, but This Is Us was one of a kind. And so Chris Sullivan's in this film, Presence, with Lucy Liu, and it only made, unfortunately, though, $3.4 million this weekend. But still, Soderbergh is a big director, and he's got another movie coming out for Focus Features called Black Bag. Michael Fassbender, Kate Blanchett. It opens in March. 6th place, 3.4 million. It made a little noise this weekend. Not a ton of presence, but a little bit. It basically tied the second weekend of Wolfman. Wolfman dropped hard. Oh my gosh. 3.4 million for that this weekend. Only $17.8 million. This is a film that Universal, I think, hoped would do 17.8 in its opening weekend. Or maybe even 27.8. I mean, they thought that Wolfman was going to be big because of the IP behind it. Julia Garner in it. If you haven't seen The Assistant, Julia Garner is fantastic in The Assistant, but not in Wolfman. This is I mean, I haven't seen the film, but it looks terrible. And this is a movie that Universal had really high hopes for. Thought was going to be bigger than Night Swim, up there with The Exorcist, which didn't even do great, but up there with some of the other ones. Bigger than Imaginary, which is doing at this point, Imaginary did a little better than this, I think, last year. Blumhouse has had this weird kind of up and down vibe over the last few years. I mean, I watched Jason Blum on Shark Tank, and I saw him in person a year and a half ago now, ish, October of 2023 at New York Comic Con. And he has a strong presence. Talk about a guy with presence. He has that. And he's made a lot of good decisions. But there's been a lot of Blumhouse movies. I saw the trailer for another one, I think, the other night before Flight Risk. There are a lot of Blumhouse movies. And maybe it's a bit of oversaturation. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, good business guy, smart, but there's a lot of these movies now, and maybe there are too many. Fanimator 101, Dogman, I'm seeing it this week. Seeing Fanimator, seeing it on Thursday, hearing it's good. I cannot share opinion on Dogman until the review embargo lifts Wednesday. But you will check out my conversation with Peter Hastings, which should be up before then, but hopefully by then on all the outlets. Yeah, Dogman, this week, DreamWorks. We'll talk about what's coming out this week in a minute here on LCJ Live. I'm going to button one more button. Then we've got number 8 this weekend is A Complete Unknown. So A Complete Unknown got a box office boost from the Academy Award nominations for sure. So did another movie that I'll mention here in a minute. But A Complete Unknown added $3.1 million this weekend. It is at $63 million. It is one of the 8 or 9 biggest Searchlight Pictures movies ever. It's about to pass The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water won Best Picture that year. And A Complete Unknown, not adjusted for inflation, is about to pass that on the Searchlight all-time top 10 chart. Of course, with Chalamet hosting SNL last night, he's a Best Actor contender alongside another gentleman that I'll mention here because I already did Den of Thieves number 9. It's The Brutalist in 10th place this weekend with Adrian Brody. And as I wrote on social media the other day, The Brutalist got a major Oscar nomination box office boost. It went up 37% on Thursday on Oscar nomination day versus Wednesday. That's very good. And The Brutalist finally enters the top 10 officially this weekend with $2.9 million. It has totaled $9.3 million for A24. It expanded to about 1,100 theaters. That's not completely wide. You see movies often go to 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 theaters. And so we'll see what kind of expansion A24 does with The Brutalist over the next several weeks as we head into the Oscars on March 2. But this is good that it's, for them, that it's in the top 10. And I think they'll get it to more than 2,000 theaters at some point. The problem with The Brutalist making money is that it's a 3.5-hour film with that 15-minute intermission in the middle. So if your theater is only going to have it on one screen, you may only get 1 or 2 showtimes per day per screen, especially if it's in IMAX or other theaters. You may have to pop it in 1.5 or 2 full theaters just to accommodate. So that may hurt its box office even if a lot of people are seeing it. But The Brutalist is in the top 10 this weekend. Junga Wunga, Afternoon Lights. Hey there. Any predictions for the first big hit of 2025? Well, I hope Dogman does well this weekend, but you've got Captain America opening in just a couple of weeks, along with Paddington in Peru. And I think you're talking about a big 1-2 punch from them for the box office, along with kids off of school for Feb break that whole week. They're going to do really well. We just got to get through the next couple of weeks. But I will say, I think Dogman's going to do very well. And Companion, which is the horror thriller mystery from Warner Brothers, which opens this week as well. Those are going to be your 2 big movies coming out this weekend. And I think they'll do fine. I think they will be the number 1 and 2 film next weekend, beating Flight Risk. Which one is 1 and which one is 2, that will depend on word of mouth and how many families want to go see Dogman right away and how many horror fans want to go see Companion right away. But you've also got Green and Gold, which I have seen. I will share my thoughts on that tomorrow. It's a new drama with Craig T. Nelson from Fathom Events. Also, Valiant 1, an action war drama, opens this weekend. The re-release of Seven goes to some more theaters. And you do have Stephen Young and Kristen Stewart in a film called Love Me, which I'm interested in seeing. I think the concept is intriguing, and I hope I get to check that out this week. For at-home viewing this week, new on Prime Video Thursday is You're Cordially Invited, Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell's new Amazon MGM comedy. Not in theaters, but it is available on Prime Video Thursday. They put out the trailer for this about 9 months ago and have held on to it all the way till now, which is an interesting decision. But You're Cordially Invited is available on Thursday. Next Sunday is Groundhog Day. It's also the Grammys. And now let's talk about the Oscar nominations just for a minute. You had Amelia Perez leading the way with 13 nominations. But does that mean Amelia Perez wins the Academy Award? I think that the rest of this award season is going to be very interesting for a number of reasons. Obviously, the factor of the fires and the impact of that. But also, you've got the Critics' Choice Awards, which are Friday, Feb 7. So we're 12 days away from that. And the votes have been locked in for a few weeks already. You know, the voting did not change. I voted for the Critics' Choice Awards winners back on January 3, I think. And now here we are on Jan 26th. And the voting closed, I believe, on the 10th. And so these votes have been locked in. So you could see repeats of the Globes winners, but you could also see some different ones. But the voting's been locked in, so that's going to make the momentum of the award season interesting, along with the fact that the SAG Awards is only 7 days before the Oscars this year. So a lot of interesting factors at play for sure. But Amelia Perez leads the way. The animated feature nominees were as to be expected. And the big Best Picture surprise, of course, I'm Still Here. I did have that as an alternate. I thought Sing Sing was going to get in, but I had I'm Still Here, September 5, and A Real Pain as my three alternates for Best Picture. I did pretty well with my predictions. But if you haven't seen I'm Still Here, right now it's only in 17 theaters, made $240,000 this weekend, a $14,000 per screen average, but because everybody's going to want to see everything before the Oscars, with Fernanda Torres up for Best Actress and the film up for Picture and International Feature. Once Sony Classics expands that wide, it's going to do very well, with everyone wanting to see all the big Oscar nominees. Pete Crooks, Mickey 17 looks awesome. That movie has played release roulette. It was supposed to come out January 31. It was supposed to come out this Friday. Then it moved to April. Now it's March. So we'll see how good it is from Bong Joon-ho with Robert Pattinson. And Fanimator 101 heard the first trailer for Smurfs on Feb 7. I have not heard that. But, I mean, maybe it shows up with Dogman, but they're different studios, so I'm not sure. But we'll see. The Smurfs movie comes out in July. There is a new Bad Guys animated short in front of Dogman in theaters this weekend. Out of the top 10 this weekend, Wicked. Wicked finally went out of the top 10. Added 2.4 million. It's up to 468.8, but it went out of the top 10. Nosferatu added 2.1 million. That is at 93.2, the second biggest Focus Features movie of all time, behind the first Downton Abbey. And Wicked with 10 Oscar nominations. Nosferatu got 4, but not Best Picture. It's the most nominated movie of the year to not be nominated for Best Picture. And then September 5, which only got original screenplay, I wish it did better, did add 770,000 this weekend. It's up to 1.7 million total. If you have it near you, go see September 5. Inheritance did not do well, just 132,000. And I'm just looking over the rest of the box office. 19 grand in one theater for the Liza Minnelli documentary, which I didn't love. I've got a written review of that at lights-camera-jackson.com. Liza, a truly terrific, absolutely true story. Not one of my favorite of the modern celebrity biopic documentaries of the last several years. Get my thoughts on that on the website. But it did do $19,000 in one theater, which is very good. Unfortunately, The Colors Within, an animated film I like. I spoke with the director, Naoko Yamada. That Q&A is at animationscoop.com. Only $378,000 for that this weekend. It was in nearly 600 theaters. That is too bad. If you're an anime fan, go see The Colors Within. I recommend it. Okay, and if you're on the Podbean site and the Animation Scoop site, my conversation with the makers of Endless Cookie, which premiered at Sundance yesterday. It's an animated documentary unlike anything I've ever seen, unlike anything you'll ever see, and I hope a big studio distributor gets behind it. Endless Cookie. It's going to be a movie people are going to talk about for a long time, so check out that conversation as well. When we're back here next Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern, it'll be Groundhog Day. It'll be Grammys Day. We'll preview the Critics' Choice Awards and the Annie Awards, which will be next, the following weekend, along with the Super Bowl. Man, so many things happening. And we'll talk about the Dogman box office, the Companion box office, see how the other movies do, and we'll preview Love Hurts and Hard Eyes, which are coming out, and some other movies for Valentine's Day in February, and more things happening in the world of movies and television and entertainment. Go to lights-camera-jackson.com, animationscoop.com, lcj.podbean.com, toofast2films.com. We review a film that should have been up for Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths should have been up for the Academy Award. And Wallace and Gromit. That's our latest episode. We're going to record more soon. TooFastTwoFilms.com. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you. Like this video. And go to my Instagram at LightsCamJackson, X as well at LCJ Reviews. I think that's everything. I think I've covered a lot. And there'll be more things, Oscar nomination predictions and other things for the winners coming up over the next few weeks and more. So keep it to all the LCJ socials for lots of things happening, some more interviews in the can, and a lot going on. Thank you for being here on LCJ Live. I appreciate it. Have a good Sunday. Fly, Eagles, fly. And I'll see you next time on LCJ Live. Bye-bye.